Burning Veil podcast. I am your co-host, Chris. With me, as always, is Gideon. Chris,
Hello.
You know me, love me. Gideon, you know him, you love him. We're both high school graduates, and we like reading about weird things and talking about it.
That's amazing. You're never doing that again.
I was just trying to be funny. The audience loves
it works.
So how you doing,
Made
Gideon?
me laugh. I am
You have a good week?
rushing. I'm great.
So you said your parents are in town unexpectedly.
No. My
Or,
brother-in-law's
I mean, your
mother
family.
is in town. My brother-in-law's
Oh,
mother and
okay.
aunt is in town.
Is that a good thing?
She's not my mother-in-law, so yeah.
Alrighty. Well, tonight we are going to talk about the great state of Alabama, which happens to be about 20 minutes from where I live, where I'm broadcasting right now.
Yep.
And there's a lot of Alabama. I feel like gets a bad rap. A lot of people make fun of it. People think deliverance. People think, I don't know, inbreeding. Although I will say this, and this is something I learned today, that inbred laws are actually more prominent in Northeast states. Believe it or not.
Actually, there's only 12
like Rhode
states
Island has.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
There's only 12 states in the entire United States where it is actually legitimately legal to marry your first cousin. Florida is one of them.
Really?
It is the only state in the South.
You mean our native state?
Yes, it's the only state in the South where that is legal, and I don't even know if that's still on the books as of today. Is that?
Huh. We got to get in DeSantis' ear and tell him to repeal that thing. You know what? That might explain all the Florida man stories that have come out the past 10, 15 years. All those crazy, hashtag Florida man. You know what I mean? Those wild and crazy stories of people doing ridiculous things.
That's called bath salts, sir. And I got a high horse about this
I will
whole
agree with
cousin
you on that,
thing.
yeah.
I got a whole high horse about this real quick. Let me get on this high horse.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I am not advocating and I'm not condemning. I'm just saying. Okay, get that disclaimer out there. Okay, so the actual human child deformation rate of the world is 0.04%. Okay. And it's a common thing that everybody says, oh, well, if, you sleep with your first cousin and you have a kid, that kid's going to come out all inbred and, deformed.
Well,
and
Down
stuff.
syndrome mostly. That's I think Down syndrome is the common,
I've heard that
illness.
a lot too. I've heard autism. I've heard all kinds of different things. But the actual legitimate statistics of it isn't that bad. Like everybody says, oh, you marry your first cousin and have a kid with your first cousin, then that deformation rate jumps stupid wild, right? Wrong.
Yeah.
The deformation rate is literally only of first cousins and first cousins together. Okay. The deformation rate is 0.05. That's only 0.01%. That's the only difference. Now, the problem comes later down the line. The issue and the stigma came from Europe because they would literally keep the thrones all in the family. So,
yeah, I knew about that.
You take
and
a brother
also,
and a
there's
sister.
Something about. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
You take a brother and a sister. They have a kid. That heightens the deformation rate significantly. I think it's like 0.5% higher. So now you're at 0.10%, that kind of thing. But the issue that they would have is like, look at Charles IV. Charles IV had a 4-inch chin. Dude had a massive chin. He had a chin so big that he couldn't even speak properly. He would slur his words and he would drool constantly. He was impotent. He had this issue, that issue. His back, he had a hunchback, blah, 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 blah. He was the king of France for years, and for like 14, 15 years. But the issue came from his father and his mother were 17th generation inbred brother and sister.
Good Lord.
17 generations. And he was the first deformation. He was the first deformity to appear.
I read somewhere that the Rothschilds are like that. They try to keep it all in the family as much as they can.
I cannot speak to that. I have no idea. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
I know
it's just
nothing.
it's something I read, maybe true, maybe not. I don't know. I'm actually not too familiar and well versed in the Rothschilds, so I probably should
Neither
be
am I.
since, you know.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories around that, so I've kind
Yeah.
of stayed away from it from now for now. But I'm officially Gideon is officially stepping off of his high horse.
Okay.
I'm
And
getting
now
off
we
my
can bring it back to
soapbox.
Alabama.
We can bring it back
I
to
will say
Alabama.
some of the friendliest people I have ever met are from 20 minutes away in Alabama. I
Oh
will
yeah,
say that hands down. And
that
some of the
is
most
where my
happy
brother-in-law's
people
from.
too.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's a country way of life. It's bumpkin. The only thing that I will never do in Alabama ever again is drive through Mobile at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that is it's not a bad area downtown Mobile at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it is just like ooky spooky. The fog rolls in like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
Alabama gets a little creepy.
you expect somebody to like knock on your door and like hash slinging slasher or something like that. Like
It
boom,
just looks
there's Michael
creepy because
Myers.
everything is super old there. Actually, my brother-in-law took me. This is gonna sound, you know, kind of country, but took me mudding on an ATV out there at Indian Mountain. I think that's close by. I think that's
Yeah,
where we went. But uh, the sun set, darkness fell, and we were heading back through. I think the town is Oxford, and
yeah.
yeah,
I know where
the
you're.
buildings are so old, and you could just tell that town is really old. And driving through it, it's weird. It was like when the sun goes down, all activity just kind of stops and people go
Oh
home, I
yeah,
guess.
oh
But
yeah.
it being like deserted like that at night, creepy with those old buildings, it just looked haunted. You know
Oh
what I
yeah, it's
mean?
freaky. It is freaky. Since you did the intro, I'm gonna jump in here head first.
Okay, go ahead.
Our strange and creepy Alabama with a banjo on her knee. Um, Full disclosure, my brother-in-law is actually from this state. So
Oh yeah.
two out of three of these stories that I got, he's got personal and or family stories about that we
Oh
talked
wow.
about. And it is I got him to like he didn't want to talk about one of them because he had a personal encounter and it scared him to death and still bothers him greatly today, and he's like in his 40s. He's like 42, 43, I think.
Oh wow.
And it happened when he was like 12 or 13, and it scares him to death still just to think about it. Like I said the name of the of this location, and he like looked at me and he's like, don't ever say that to me again. Get away from me now. Like he freaked out bad. But that is not what I'm going to talk about quite yet. I'm going to jump into a mysterious and possibly fake creature that is said to roam
Okay.
Alabama. It
Okay.
is called it is called the Wampus Cat.
The
So,
Wampus Cat.
the Wampus Cat. So I'm going to say supposedly throughout this because I could not confirm if this is a hoax or not, and I heard somewhere once upon a time that it was a hoax.
Okay.
Um and I could never find anything confirming or denying that it was a hoax. So the Wampus Cat is also called the Cherokee Death Cat. It's supposedly
Whoa.
a yeah, that's creepy and ominous. That's a
That's a hell
jump.
of a name. The Cherokee
Yeah,
Death
the
Cat. I
Cherokee
think I like
Death
that better
Cat.
than Wampus.
Yeah, but it's supposedly a feline creature that is depicted as either frightening or comical, depending on what part of Alabama you're from.
Uh-huh.
It's said to inhabit the Appalachian Mountains, or Appalachian for those that are actually going to care. It's supposed to be in that mountain range, just all throughout there. And the description traits of this, the highlights are: it has a spiked tail, it can shapeshift into anything it wishes, and it has 6 legs. I
6
think you
legs as
six
opposed to
legs.
4.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's supposed to be some kind of like a mix between a chupacabra and a werewolf looking thing. Like I could never find a good description picture.
Mhm.
Um, but supposedly, in the 1920s and 30s, newspapers started reporting about a quote wampus cat that was killing livestock in North Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama.
Hmm.
And these sightings continued supposedly even into the 60s. When one was sighted, the townspeople instituted curfews and armed themselves against this creature, though the dead livestock and sightings may be attributed to early intrusions of coyotes or other creatures. The
Mhm.
livestock deaths were attributed to the wampus cat by the townspeople. Supposedly, one of the townspeople was friends with a Cherokee medicine man, and when he described what was happening, this Cherokee medicine man said that the death cat of the Cherokee had come for them, and that it was very, very, very close to ending the town if they did not kill it. But strangely enough, this medicine man refused to help them kill it. Okay.
Did he think it was
This
divine or something? Does it say
No,
why?
there it doesn't say why. It just says that he refused to help them kill it and was like, "Okay, you know what it is. Go about your way. Go kill it." And it's like, how?
Mm. Well,
That
I
that
mean,
that's one of those
it
things.
sounds like the Cherokee medicine man might have saw some divinity in this creature or something like that. Like, I don't know. I wonder
I
if he knew it was just something you don't meddle with. You know what I
that
mean?
that's one of those. This is one of the characteristics that personally makes me think that this is a hoax or fake, because
Mhm.
I've gotten to talk with a couple of Cherokee and some of the other Plains Indian tribes while I was spending some time in Oklahoma and Texas and in that area. I got to talk with some locals about one of their taboo subjects, the Skinwalker. And one of the first things that they told me is do not mess with it. If it comes for you,
Yeah.
this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is how you kill it if you must, but avoid that if possible. Like they knew how to kill it, how to deal with it. They gave me tips and tricks from their legends and lore to either help me fend this off, get it away from me, or kill it. And there's
Mm.
none of that in this. There's none of that in this. And another thing that
Wow.
that kind of irks me as this might be fake is that supposedly there was a salesman who was running around the town that time in a covered wagon, in a caged covered wagon that had a panther and a minx in the same body. Like he was showing this thing off, and it had a lot of
What do you mean the same body? Like
like
was
he had
it a
sewed a minx fur onto this panther, this poor
Oh,
panther.
geez.
Yeah,
Why would
he was
anybody
like
do
he was
that?
making it like
At first
it's
I
like a
thought you meant
Fiji mermaid.
at first I thought you meant like crossbreeding, like a liger. You know what I mean?
No, a minx is not even a feline.
Oh, okay.
So that's not even plausible. But the only modern depiction that I can find of this was in a brewing company um, in Virginia made and named one of their IPA stouts after the cat. The name of the company is Strange Ways Brewing. They also have a couple of other really cool stuff like Bat Squatch and Ram Squatch and a couple of other Mothman stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's like okay, yeah, that's fine. And then the only depiction and the only legitimate I could find as real drawing that couldn't be traced
Mhm.
back to somebody screwing around or a hoax or something was in J.K. Rowling's book, uh, Pottermore, The History of Magic in North America, which is a
Mm.
part of the Harry Potter series. So, yeah, yeah, that's like the only thing that we can find other than in the Cormac McCarthy novel, The Orchard Keeper. There's a character named Uncle Aether who tells stories about the Wampus cats, or he even calls them painters.
Painters.
Um,
Why would he call them
painters. Yeah,
that?
like
Because they paint with
eh,
blood, or
I have no idea. Multiple junior highs, high schools. There's even a university in Louisiana that has them as their mascot. Um,
really
there's a sculpture in Itasca, Texas, that's supposed to represent this or show what this being is, but it's looks nothing like it's described, and that's like literally the end of all I could find of this, other than like every J.K. Rowling book where the Wampus Cat is ever mentioned. So I'm going to personally put this in the category of bull, hoax, fake, black, not real, but
fake
it's
news?
still something kind of
Fake
interesting.
news.
It still is kind of
Mhm.
interesting because that's just my personal opinion that this thing is fake as can be. It's faker than a woman in L.A. at this point.
Yeah.
So what's
Well,
the
I
story you
have an
got?
interesting one. I have this is coming out of Birmingham. Um this is called the Storyteller Fountain, but it's also known
Okay.
as the Satanic Fountain. Uh
Ooh,
and
ominous.
the Storyteller Fountain is a sculptural fountain located in the heart of Five Points South in front of Highlands United Methodist Church. With its realistically depicted fairy tale creatures gathered around a storyteller, the fountain has become a popular local landmark. The original conception was for a piece of art to be commissioned in Southside Birmingham as a memorial to uh, murdered art dealer Malcolm McRae, who operated the Signature House Gallery in the Haskins Williams residence. Let me see if I can find any more that tells you about it. I'm sorry, I didn't have a whole link. But locals actually are kind of afraid of this thing. Hang on, let me see if I can find
Really?
another source. Yeah, it's but if you look at it, um here we
Yeah,
go. A
I'm
fountain in
pulling up.
Birmingham's Five Points area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's called
pulling
the
up a picture of
Storyteller.
it.
The sculptural fountain was created. It was created in 1991 by Frank Fleming, and although Fleming considered the focal figure of a half ram, half man surrounded by woodland creatures to be a southern in the southern tradition of storytelling, some people thought that the ram head, uh, which also holds a 9-foot long staff, represented Satan, and the 5 frogs surrounding him symbolized the pentagram. This led to tales of satanic rituals at the site, and although no evidence supports that, so that's all alleged. But I mean, think of Christian conservative heart of Alabama, Birmingham, and something like that's
Yeah,
coming up. Birmingham has a lot
yeah.
of history too, a lot of civil rights history with the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so
The Civil War.
there yeah, exactly, Civil War, but also Birmingham was a big iron town back in the day. That was like I think it was the first
Ah.
or one of the first big industrial towns of the South was
Oh
Birmingham.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so there's my point with all that is there's a lot of energy there, there's a lot of history there, and you know me, I like, I pick up on energy. I talk about energy, whether it's
You
good
hippie.
energy or bad energy, places injury. I said injury,
You
energy.
hippie. Picking up on that
Yeah,
energy, you hippie.
whatever.
No, I'm
Let me
kidding.
go
I'm
grab my
kidding.
tie-dye shirt with my peace sign and grab a guitar and
I'll,
play some songs for you.
I'll get my
Um,
tinfoil hat.
but yeah, I mean, but something like that. Yeah, and the pictures, the thing just looks creepy AF. I mean, it's just like
It
you
does.
imagine walking in a park late at night, you come up on that. What's your first thought?
My first thought is that ram in the center's gonna look and be like, "Hey kid, you want to buy some candy?" That thing looks creepy,
Like it's
man.
gonna come alive. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a statue.
Have you ever seen The Evil Dead with Bruce
Yes.
Campbell? That is a cult
Yes.
classic. You know the deer head, how it's like moving around with its tongue out. That's what I imagine
Yeah.
this thing is going to do. When I pulled up that picture, I saw it, and the first thing I saw is that image in my head, and I'm like, oh dear God. And then I noticed
That's
the
hilarious.
9-foot staff in its hand.
See, that's
Like
the thing. And then the frogs look creepy too.
they
And they're
do.
they're they're set at 5 points surrounding this thing, and it's just like, yeah, I could see it. I could see how that could represent a pentagram. And I
I
could
I
see how
was
locals could be concerned about that.
I was gonna do this story, but then I
Uh-huh.
figured, nah, I'll throw Chris a bone and see if he can like if he'll pick this one up, and if not, I'll bring it up as like an honorary mention. But I found an article where a kid in
Uh-huh.
2014 they had to replace the original frogs in 2014
Really?
because
Why was that?
a kid went out there and drew and painted the frogs red, and the ram's horn splattered him with red paint and made it look
Oh
like a
man.
pentagram and made it look like the ram was covered in blood, like a sacrifice had been done there. He was trying to do some kind of religious activism. Um,
Mm,
I
I
think
gotcha.
he was I think he was atheist or something like that, and he was like, "This is a Luciferian where I'm an equal opportunity jerk, so I'm going to mess with the Church of Satan and splat." And it's a town monument. Kid's like 14, 15. He got arrested. It's on his record, I think, permanently because the city charged him because that's
Right.
desecration of a public place. It's vandalism,
Well, yeah, it's
and
vandalism.
it's hatred. And his intentions was to commit a hate crime that way. And
Yeah.
more power to Birmingham for slapping him. He's a kid, should have gone a little easier than 4 years in jail. But
Hey, the South don't play when it comes. They want their jail revenue.
here's the
So
really
you
funny
better
thing.
keep your nose clean.
When they looked, supposedly this article claimed that when they looked in the bylaws of that statue being commemorated and built, and the bill and the funding to put it up, the only thing that is to never change, even if broken, is the ram and the staff. Everything else can be changed out. So they replaced the frogs with new ones, but they had to paint over the red paint on the ram. How weird is that?
Huh.
That makes me
That
think
is
of like
super weird.
some Assassin's Creed Templar crap where like somebody's hidden a piece of Eden in that thing or something. Like like there's
A
something
piece of
hidden in
Eden,
there so it can't be touched, that kind of thing.
like the Templar's treasure.
Yeah,
Well,
like something
that
like that.
reminds me. There wasn't not too long ago. Somebody vandalized. You and I have talked about the Georgia Guidestones. Not
Yeah,
too
yeah.
long ago, somebody vandalized them.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
So no, that's not good. But
That is a creepy mystery. We
yeah.
got to talk about that
In this,
eventually.
huh?
We got to talk about that eventually. That is a creepy one.
That is a whole episode. There's all kinds of conspiracy surrounded by that, and rightly so. I mean, some of the stuff it says on there about keeping the world's population down below what, like 500 million or something.
I think
And
so.
I think there's a time capsule there too, if I'm not mistaken. I'll
I
have to
have no
confirm that.
idea, but like that is like one of those things that's just so weird.
Oh, it's totally fascinating. And you know what? Another thing, when I came across this story, this storyteller fountain, it kind of made me think of. Do you remember in Detroit where I think they also did it in like St. Louis too, but they put up the statue of Baphomet?
Baphomet, yeah, they did that in Chicago. The one in
Oh, okay.
Detroit never got the funding. They did it in Chicago. I've actually been there. I've seen it. Um, I was that guy that I stood underneath it, and I actually gave a sermon to a handful of teens because I'm in Chicago. When in Rome, why not? And funny, really story. Everybody that listens knows that we are devout men of our faiths respectively. And I actually got to lead what we call the sinner's prayer for a teen to accept salvation under the statue of Baphomet in
Okay.
Chicago.
Awesome.
And it's
See,
kind of one of
I
those
look at
things
that
of
as
like,
like
haha, suck it, devil.
I look at that I look at that as kind of a punk rock thing, like, you know,
Yeah, the whole
like, heck
thing was
yeah, stick it to
actually
the man, you Baphomet. You know what? Shoot, we'll say the Lord's Prayer underneath it. How do you like
and
that?
I'm one of
That's
the
like a way of
very
sticking it to the man.
Yeah, I'm one of the very few people that that statue as a Christian does not offend me because I understand the purpose of why they put it up. The purpose was to either prove or disprove that they could get something done via legislation based on a recognized religion. The people who
Right.
actually had it put up, the original person that started the funding and the wanting to put it up was an atheist. He believed in no God whatsoever. Agnostic, my apologies. He believed in no higher being, period. But he wanted to prove a point that, okay, they've got the 10 commandments up there at like every courthouse in the world, just in the United States. Let's see if we could get something from another religion pushed. And that caught the biggest rolling snowball effect, and they jumped right on board with it. And it doesn't offend me personally because, yeah, it's an eyesore in my opinion, just because of the way it looks and what it's supposed to represent. But I don't find it offensive
Yeah.
because the meaning behind it is more of, you put this up to prove a point. And that point has been proven that you've got freedom of religion where we've said you've got freedom of religion. It's not biased toward one
Yeah,
religion or
I
another.
can understand that, but I can't help but think about, um in the Old Testament, I forget exactly what book it is, but it talks about how uh there was a statue of Baal. It was when the Israelites had turned their back against God and God was mad at them. Well, they had erected a statue of Baal in God's temple. And when uh like the next morning after it was erected, Baal was like face down, like
Oh, I
all
know
of a
what you're talking
sudden.
about.
I
Slight
forget exactly
correction.
how that goes.
I got
A
you. I
what?
got you. It's actually in the book of First or Second Samuel's. I believe it's First or Second Samuel's, the fifth chapter. If you want to go
Mhm.
and read it, and it wasn't Baal, it was Dagon. So what had
It was
happened
Dagon.
was
Okay.
Dagon was the Philippine, or not the Philippines. I apologize. The Philistines, god. They were basically the rivals to the Israelites, the biggest rivals they had for the
Right.
longest time.
Yeah,
He's
Goliath
kind of
was
like,
a Philistine, and that was
yes, he
his
was,
Philistine
yes,
army. Yeah.
yes. They had actually captured the Ark of the Covenant, which is a holy relic that was
Mhm.
supposed to contain
Didn't they send it
some
to
of the power of
Babylon,
God.
or was that
Uh,
later?
no, that was later. Um,
Oh,
the Philistines captured it in battle and took it back to their encampment, and they put it in the temple,
gotcha.
their temple of Dagon, with all their other spoils of war. And when they were drinking and reveling and having a good time, and when the priests came in to do their daily worship to Dagon, they found that Dagon was bent over on his hands and knees in front with with his forehead touching the floor, pointing toward the
Mhm.
Ark of the
Like
Covenant of
bowing
God.
down to
Yes, he was bowing
right,
down
the
to it.
presence
So
of God.
they
Yeah.
pick him up, put him back, fasten his hands and his feet. So, oh, this ain't happening again. They go about their day. They drink, party, revel, have fun that night. They get up in the morning, do the same thing. The hands and feet are broken off. Same position. Down on the floor, worshiping before the altar, bowing before the altar. And they put the statue back up, and they have fixed it. They fixed it in such a way, I can't remember the exact wording, but they fixed it where it wouldn't move. It's not moving at all. We've got this thing so tied up, it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
They go about their on, and the next day the statue is crumbled in just pieces in front of the statue, but the pieces align to make out the same image that that Dagon is bowing before the Ark of the Covenant. And they said, you know what? This is nothing but a problem. We got to rebuild a new statue. Before they could start building on a statue, a disease came into the town: boils, sores, pox, loss of control of the bowels, vomiting, dysentery, sickness. People were dropping, dying left and right. At one point, I even believe later in the Bible, it says, talking about that again, it says that even their meat, even their wine tasted sour to them after fermentation. just all kinds of wild things. And they said, you know what? This didn't start until we brought that thing, that relic of Jehovah, into our camp and our temple. So they put it on a donkey, on a cart on a donkey, pointed the donkey toward Jerusalem, and slapped the donkey and said, "Be gone with you." Immediately after the donkey
Mm.
got past the Philistines' camp, everybody started curing and healing up.
Wow.
So that's that story.
That
It's
see now
either First or Second
that
Samuel
makes me think
5.
of that makes me think of Baphomet. I mean, what if there was a way that that Baphomet statue could, come into the presence of God, kind of like that Dagon statue of, came in proximity to the Ark of the Covenant, you
I
know?
think there would be
I
a
think the
few
same
less
thing would happen.
Luciferians. I think there'd be a few
I
less
think so too.
Luciferians. Yeah, definitely.
I
I think
absolutely
that would.
think so.
I think as public as a place of that statue is, if something were like that were and is to happen, that would shock the world over. Probably there would be news outlets all the way from here to Magadan talking about that. I mean,
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia would probably be talking about that.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
Iran, Pakistan, Russia would probably stop their bull in Ukraine and be like, "Excuse me, what?" Because then to that, depending on the circumstances that lead to that, which me and you both, Chris, and anybody who knows God, Jehovah,
Mhm.
as we know him, will know that the circumstances will play out in such a way that no one can say, well, this might be the reason. It's going to be like, no, that is the Lord Jehovah. That is Jehovah right there. That's
Yeah.
how that'll play out.
Oh, there won't be a doubt about it.
I personally doubt that something like that would happen right at this moment, simply for the fact of the shock factor of how many people is that going to scare. It's going to cause confusion.
Yeah.
It's going to scare people. People are going to freak out, and God is not about freaking the people out.
Right.
He is a God of just order. He's not going to cause chaos and confusion unless
Well,
you see many times in the Old Testament there's a little bit of mess that is caused to prove a point. And I see
mhm.
personally no point proven unless we get to the point where people are in the street claiming that they're Luciferians sacrificing people. Which, okay,
Yeah.
soapbox moment for that. I know I'm running my mouth, but soapbox moment for that. Let me get on this soapbox. A lot of
Okay.
people claim that Satanists and Luciferians and cults and stuff murder babies. Okay. In the name of their dark lord or whatever. Okay, my only issue with that is whether they do or not, it's not useful. It's a waste of time. It's non-productive simply for the fact that if you look in biblical scriptures, it states that if someone is under the age or under the age of accountability of knowing right and wrong. So I personally believe the age of accountability is somewhere around 12, 13, 14, where you get a grasp of this is right, this is wrong. I know it without a shadow of a doubt. I've been taught this. This is right, this is wrong. Stealing something from the grocery store is wrong.
Mhm.
Stuff like that. If you are before that point of accountability, you can't make a decision for yourself whether to do evil deeds or do good deeds. So you're immediately poof to heaven. That's just that. So
Yeah.
if this cultist is sacrificing a child, that child isn't going to their dark master like they're claiming. That child is going straight to heaven either way. So it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
So that's one of my whole things, and I think some of that came out of the satanic panic and some of the bull of that era and the eras before and after it. I think some of that's a
Well,
little bit
it
of bull. I'm sure people have
it may
done
have,
dark
but
things like that.
well, that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, in the past, it has, um, I mean, it's historically accurate that followers of Baal and followers of these other, deities sacrifice children. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah. Oh
Mostly
yeah.
it was a fiery furnace. But
Usually.
we've all heard. We've all heard the stories about that.
Yeah,
And I think that that's where a lot of that comes from.
I think so.
I mean, would you agree?
I agree with that. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Let's get into another story about Alabama because
Okay,
I don't think Bale has
another
anything to
Bama
do with
story.
Alabama. Yeah. Okay, this one is called the White Fang,
The
spelled
White
T
Fang.
H
This is a
T
great
H
movie.
Thang. White Fang.
Oh, White Fang.
Um,
Okay,
Fang. Yeah.
not the dog.
No. Um, in Alabama, much like the local barbecue sauce, the local Bigfoot variant is white. The white Fang is a possible cousin of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Skookum, Wildman, Ohio Grassman, Hairy, Yowie, Yeti, many different names for this variety of creature. Standing at a similarly reported height of 8 to 9, maybe 10 feet tall, most witnesses agree that it bears a strong physical resemblance to the more commonly known Bigfoot. But every account describes it to have a wolf like set of teeth. Although physical descriptions have varied on the teeth, one feature that is always the same is the account of the white hair or fur covering the creature. Sightings of the White Fang have been occurring for at least over 100 years, and it still continues to this day. Most sightings occur in a geographical triangle between the cities of Birmingham, Gadsden, and Huntsville, the north central part of the state. Most reports are similar to most Bigfoot encounters. They are seen for a short time, then they're gone. Sometimes they're seen in the deep woods by a hunter, other times closer to homes and neighborhoods. The White Fang is said to have a red eye shine and can emit a loud, ear piercing scream that, in one account, has even busted the eardrum of a man.
Whoa.
The scream is usually similar to that of a woman in distress. It has been described similar to a woman in distress mixed with a panther, cougar, and a kangaroo having coitus.
Whoa.
Similar to I'm just going to leave that alone. Similar to its
Yeah.
cousin Bigfoot, many locals will tell you that they hear these screams on a regular basis and it's just normal to them. However, unlike Bigfoot, is the folklore attached to the White Fang. Older Alabamians, I love that name, Alabamians, talk about
Alabamians.
seeing the talking about seeing the White Fang around, near, and even standing next to funeral wakes or coffins after the funeral. With some saying that they were a child, when they were a child, they knew they would see the White Fang anytime someone passed away. Others extend the death association to hog killings. Perhaps the White Fang is an invention of the imagination, an omen or a harbinger of death or bad luck. Maybe it was created
Hmm.
to help make sense of the world long ago, passed down until it became part of the local lore. Or perhaps it is simply an albino black bear or a cougar that has been misidentified. Okay, I'm sorry. If you think an albino cougar is 9 to 10 feet tall, whatever you smoke and put it
Mm.
down, please.
Or a hog, for
Um,
that matter.
yeah, or a hog or a bear. I mean, bears can't walk the way these things do. I've been on that so many times. Um,
Mm. Oh, hey, you saw those pictures I sent you? Was it last week?
what pictures?
Um, I sent. Yeah, you responded to it. It was on Messenger. There apparently was a Bigfoot sighting in a nearby town from not far from where I am, the town of Temple.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
literally the
yeah, yeah.
next town over.
I couldn't get in
So
to look at the pictures though because it wanted me to join the group.
honestly,
So
it did look like a it. Honestly, it did kind of look like a guy in a ghillie suit. It's hard to tell the height, but you know, I don't know. Something about it just wasn't. I don't know. I didn't get the oh my god that's Bigfoot feeling. You know,
yeah, yeah,
the
I'll
pictures
have to
did look like a.
I'll have to check
To
that
me, they
out
looked like a
later.
dude in a ghillie suit. So
But get this, I'm just getting into it. The folkloric aspects, like the white thing showing up around funerals or death, are certainly extra appealing. And they put in Isaiah 118. Come now
Whoa.
and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet blood, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. Perhaps there's no correlation whatsoever, but I'm reminded in this regard of the tradition of the sin eater, originating in the British Isles and undoubtedly carried to America with English immigrants. A sin eater would usually perform a ritual at a funeral that involved receiving a small payment, eating bread, and drinking wine over the deceased, and reciting a verse or a prayer. The purpose of this ritual was to absolve the dead of any unconfessed sins by transferring the sin to the sin eater. Traditionally, the sin eater would be an outcast of society. He would be considered cursed to bear sins of deceased, and it was considered bad luck to even look upon a sin eater.
Wow.
Much of the stigma may have to do with the origin of the practice in Catholic England, where the church had a monopoly on absolution of sin. Therefore, a sin eater would literally be an outlaw as well as being the bearer of sins. Maybe there in significance of the white thing being, quote, white as snow.
Wow.
That's
That's
kind of
actually a really
wild.
cool story.
That is
I
kind of
actually like
wild.
that story. I think that's cool.
I think that that's kind of possible. And then they go into an encounter that someone had. Basically, said that their ex husband and her were trading their kids off for shared custody in a Walmart parking lot near a wooded area, and they looked out,
Mhm.
and their young son said, "Look, mom, a dead sheepdog on the side of the road." It was a
Mhm.
long white haired pile of fluff and was quite large. She got out of the vehicle intending to help the poor dog if it was still alive. She rolled she rolled part of it over, and rather than a paw she expected to see, there was a pink skinned hand. Understandably freaked
Whoa.
out, she said they then left the scene quickly, and they returned to the same spot at some point in the near future, and there was nothing there. And she said that she was sure that she saw an albino baby Bigfoot, and that the quote, "Mama picked it up and ran away."
Whoa. That's
That is
crazy.
wild. But this thing has been reported for over 100 years in Alabama, predating the National Bigfoot Sighting Flap that began in the 1950s. Even today, the white
Wow.
thing is still seen occasionally and even talked about by good old Alabamians.
Mm. See, I think that, just when they say good art stands the test of time. So I think the same goes with good legends, and good
Oh
myths,
yeah, oh yeah.
and whether or not it's true. I use the term legends and myths, but hey, it might be true. There's something to be said about that. You know.
I have an honorary mention after me and you both tag teamed this last story that you may really
Uh huh.
like because it combines Alabama and what I personally want to do as our next state.
Okay.
So I will tell you now, I personally want to do Louisiana as my next state.
I agree. I was actually thinking about that today. It's fun. It's funny you say that.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get into this
Especially you get
story.
around New Orleans. All
Oh,
right,
oh,
what's the next story?
oh!
Or do you want
I'm
me
not.
to? Or
I'm gonna handicap myself on the next one. I'm not going to talk about New Orleans. I'm not going to talk
uh
about
huh.
anything that has to do with New Orleans. I may have a story or two. It's like and this has been seen all the way from this area to this area. I'm not. I'm going to handicap myself, and I'm not going to talk about New Orleans at all
Ah.
if I can help
Well,
it.
New Orleans, we might as well just do a whole nother state and just call it the state of New Orleans, because that in and of
Yeah,
itself,
yeah, yeah. That
it's like
that'll be like a
I'm
4 hour
actually,
segment.
last week when we did Georgia, I'm surprised neither one of us brought up Savannah, because Savannah is very similar as far as paranormal activity and things like that goes.
I thought I did the medical college of Savannah.
Yes, yes, you did.
I was about to say we brought Savannah
Yeah.
up. I also brought up Albany.
Well, Albany's like further
Albany is
west
just
than
Albany,
Savannah.
man. Albany's just Albany.
Albany's just Albany.
But I figured
True.
we could
True
tag
that.
team this particular article
Okay.
of this last one. So why don't you go ahead and go first?
The wait, which one is it?
The
Is it
mystery
the
of
Huntsville?
dead dead children's playground in Huntsville, Alabama. It is a
Okay,
legitimate
I gotcha.
actual that is the legitimate name. That is the name. Like if you
Hmm.
Google this thing, that's what it is called. How creepy
It's
is
the
that to
Dead Children's
start with?
Playground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how creepy is that to start with?
Well, I don't know if we're on the same article, but I am going to read what I got, and you
Go
could
ahead.
jump in and read what you got, and we'll kind of compare and contrast and talk about it. All
Go
right.
ahead.
The Dead Children's Playground. This eerie playground adjacent to Maple Hill, which is Huntsville's oldest cemetery, doesn't just have an eerie nickname for fun. The playground was presumably designated to entertain kids while their parents visited the graves of loved ones. Legend has it, though, that the spirits of children who've been buried in the cemetery since the first grave was dug there in 1822 come out to play at night. The living have observed orbs of light going down the slide. They've seen swings moving on their own, and they've heard giggling. Creepier still, some say the spirits include victims of a rash of child murders that happened in the 1960s, when the bodies were rumored to have been found in the area that now houses the playground. Where it came from, the playground itself wasn't opened until 1985, so you can imagine how much pent up energy the tiny spirits have had after 163 years without a slide. In 2007, the city tried to raise RAZE, the park, to make more room for more graves and removed the slides and swings overnight. After public outcry, it was replaced with more modern equipment, making it slightly less creepy to look at and also probably resulting in some happier ghosts.
What year did they replace the equipment with modern equipment?
Let me see. In 2007, the city tried to raise the park.
Oh, okay, 2007. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in
Okay,
2007, the city, they tried to raise the park to make room for the graves, and they removed the slides and swings. But then the townspeople, the locals, they protested against it. It was public outcry. Then it was, yeah, so it was 2007. So then it was replaced with more modern equipment, and the
okay,
article actually says making it slightly less creepy.
okay. So here's where I'm gonna jump in.
Okay.
So, the playground near Maple Hill Cemetery was originally a limestone quarry. The high cliffs surrounding the ground are not natural and were all formed as part of the quarry site. Soon, within a matter of years, the area turned into a natural bushland, filled with flowers and trees and pretty things. In 1960, a series of child disappearance cases were reported in Huntsville, with none of the kids ever turning up. It was suspected that an unknown person from the neighborhood had killed the children. These doubts got cleared when someone was walking through the abandoned quarry and found a small skull. On further
Ooh.
investigation, several skeletons were recovered along with the small corpses from fresher murders. The murderer was never found, but later it was discovered that the children were brutally murdered. The signs of prolonged detainment had been seen on the bones. Malnourishment
Whoa.
and partly healed wounds were also found on the bodies of the latest victims, as well as sexual trauma.
Wow.
Within the discovery of the bodies, the disappearances of children stopped. Many of the kids remain, being local, who were buried in the adjacent Maple Hill Cemetery. This murder case remains completely unsolved. In 1985, 25 years after those terrible events, the quarries and surrounding land were turned into the Maple Hill Park. The park is known to the locals as Dead Children's Playground. In
Wow.
2017, the Huntsville Cemetery officials decided to take the park down once again to make room for more burials. A public protest, a riot, and 2 cop deaths about the removal of the park was heard and loudly felt. The soon original play equipment was reinstalled as of 2017.
Wow.
Dead
Now
Children's
that's
Playground.
crazy.
Dead Children's Playground gets several visitors each year, including paranormal researchers. There have been several reports of bizarre events that have taken place at the playground, including the laughter of children and the swings movement of their own. But when someone attempts to stop them, a large hand grabs them and bruises them. Many
No
people have
way.
Oh yeah, many people have even noticed the supernatural elements in the photos after having them developed on corduroy cameras. Oh god, who still uses a corduroy? The picture had ghostly figures of children playing in the background's rock wall. According to
Mhm.
the local legend, the spirits of the children buried in the cemetery after the murders come out late at night to play on the playground. They were very active between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. If you wish to spend a night at the Dead Children's Playground but don't know how to reach there, search for the Dead Children's Playground or Maple Hill Park into Google Maps to get your local directions to be haunted. So
I think I'll pass on that, but
I,
thanks
I'll
anyways.
I'll pass on that. So that's a whole wild mess right there. So let's go with a personal story of my brother-in-law actually was born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
He grew up short little 5 mile walk from this park where him and his mama and his stepdad lived and his sisters and the whole family.
Mhm.
When he would get upset with his stepdad, now he told me this himself because I asked him about the park if he knew it because he's from Huntsville. I asked him, "Have you ever heard of the Dead Children's Playground?" He immediately looked at me, and this is a man that I've seen him. I've seen this man punch a man with a gun in his hand. Like I've seen this man go hog
Wow.
wild. He is scared of nothing.
He's a
Dude
tough
has
dude. He's a man. Yeah.
yeah, he's a tough guy. He used to fist fight bikers for fun, that kind of thing. Um,
Wow.
he went white in the face. Like I'm talking as white as a styrofoam cup, white, white as a sheet. I hate that phrase, but white as a sheet. And he
Mm.
looked at me and he told me, get stuttering, get away from me. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. Go away. Don't ever say that to me again. And he walked away. He wouldn't talk to me for a
Whoa.
couple of days. Yeah, he wouldn't talk to me for a couple of days. I think it was like a week. I came to him again. I'm like,
Yeah,
hey,
PTSD about it or something?
I have no idea. He looked at me. He's like, don't do it. Don't do it. I gotta ask you about this. He said, all right, fine. I'll tell you one thing, and this is all you need to know. And he told me the following story. He said, me and my stepdad had just had a pretty massive fight. So I decided I'd walk to the park. Here it is, midnight by the time I get to the park, walking 5 miles uphill in the rain both ways. Um, he said that I sat down on the slide, was sliding. I was playing, I was having fun. I was like 12, 13 at this point. And he said, I went to sit on the swing. And when I sat down, I started to swing, thinking my butt was fully in the seat. When I looked down, he said that I realized that I wasn't touching the seat as I was swinging. I was floating about 5 or 6 inches above the seat, but it felt like I was sitting on on the solid seat. He said I noticed that and immediately jumped up and turned around and looked, and I could see a little girl about my age sitting there swinging. And when I asked her,
Like,
when I
all right,
asked,
yeah, that's that's time to
he's
leave.
he's he said that when I asked her how long she had been there and why she let me sit on her, she giggled and disappeared before my eyes. He said, I turned around and there was a large man there. And he said, I now know his overalls, coveralls,
Mhm.
full body coveralls like the military wears. He was a grave
Yeah.
digger. And he told him You shouldn't be out here this late, boy. Bad things happen when you're out here this late, especially as young as you are. He said, I just
Wow.
hauled and ran. Forgot the fight I had with my stepdad, just hauled and ran. He said, I made that 5 mile journey in like 20 minutes.
That's
Just
crazy.
poof, I was gone. He said, I've never been back. Don't ever want to go back. Never took my kids there as an adult. Nope, 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 nope. He said that a couple months later, he was talking to his his stepdad, who's a native of the area, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's where all them kids got kidnapped and killed and diddled." Like nonchalant, like
And
it's just
diddled.
something everybody knew. Freaked
Wow.
him out. Freaked him out.
Yeah,
So that's kind of
that's a pretty crazy. That's a
if I
crazy story. I could
honestly,
understand if I could understand if he has like some sort of PTSD from that.
oh yeah, and honestly, if I did not know that man as well as I know him, and the fact that he's never ever ever lied to me, not a single time, may have forgotten about something he said he'd do, but he'd never lied to me directly. I probably would have
Right.
socked him in the jaw and told him he's lying to me. But no, 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 no. I wholeheartedly believe him because that is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs wild, and that'll freak anybody out at this point. Like if that happened to me, I mean, the first thing I'm gonna do is, and then I whipped out my gun. You know, I mean, you can't shoot
Right.
ghost children, I don't think, but I mean, it's not the
I don't
point. It would
I
probably
know
make me feel
Georgia
better.
is I know Georgia is, but I'm not sure about Alabama. I'm not sure if they're open carry states. And I
They're
might even be
actually
getting the verbiage of that wrong. But yeah, in
uh,
Georgia you can open carry.
Alabama is a constitutional carry state. I think Georgia is as well. Basically, that means you
Okay.
can conceal or open carry, no permit needed.
Okay. Got it. Well, you know,
So, do you got
I don't
any
know if it
honorary
was back
mentions?
honorary mentions for
Yeah,
Alabama.
yeah. You got any honorary mentions or anything you want to bring up?
You know what? Let me talk to my friend Kirsten. Yeah, she's a girl I work with. She's from Alabama, born and raised. I'm sure she's got some stories. Let me
Oh, I
ask
can
her.
imagine.
Um, other than just living here, for the past couple years. Um, the only other experience I had in Alabama was when I was in a band and we were touring and we did a show. We did quite a few shows in Dothan, which
Oh
might as
yeah,
well be the
dope.
Florida Panhandle. It's like
Yeah,
just
pretty
above it.
much.
So yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, that was
Dothan is
it.
wild.
Other than huh,
Dothan is wild sometimes.
Dothan's Dothan's crazy, but yeah, I told you I had a friend in at Connecticut School of Broadcasting who was from Huntsville, and
That's right.
you
That's
know
right. You
I
did tell me that.
and I talked to him about it. We were trying to do like this funny little podcast about Florida man stories, and just something we were doing for school just to goof off. And I asked him. I said because he's actually from Huntsville. And I asked him. I said, Jackson, you're from Bama. I'm sure Alabama has crazier stories than Florida. Tell me a crazy Alabama story. And the only thing he could think of to tell me though was, about when he was delivering pizzas and someone was rude to him. you know,
That's not
yeah,
quite what we're going for.
yeah. I mean, that's what I was trying to tell him. But yeah, I don't know. He's a pretty laid back guy though.
Yeah, I
So
mean, a lot of people are.
yeah.
You want to talk about Florida Man Story of the Day? One actually appeared on my Facebook that somebody sent me uh, today, April 22nd. A Florida man in Volusia County, Florida, age 69, was attacked for waking her friend up for breakfast. Claywater, 62, attacked his friend on Thursday who wanted to wake him up for breakfast, according to the sheriff's deputies. According to the
Wow.
records, he returned to his room after Walters attacked his friend. Officials who arrived on the scene found bruises and cuts on the victim's body. He also saw 2 drops of blood on the kitchen floor. Walters was calm when the deputies arrived, expressing his regret for the fight. Walters did not accept that he attacked someone. Walters stated that his friend dropped his hat. According to another information source in the report, the third person in the room heard the noises but did not physically see the fight. Walters was arrested for assaulting a person over the age of 65 with a deadly weapon. Jesus. There's your Florida man story of the day,
There's some
folks.
there's some good ones out there. My favorite is the guy in Cocoa Beach. Was it Cocoa Beach? It was Brevard County. I know that he was, I think he had his power turned off or something, so he shows up at City Hall threatening the city that he was going to take it over with an army of turtles.
I
So
saw that. Oh my God.
true story.
Yeah. My personal
So
favorite one is the headline read something to the effect of Florida woman arrested in Dollar General for assault with a deadly weapon. And it's like, okay,
I've heard that one.
so this is kind of normal. So this lady apparently was in Dollar General, and this guy, and she farted really, really loudly next to this guy, and he like gave her some stank eye and said, "Excuse you," and then complained that it stank. So she pulled a knife and stabbed him 22 times.
Good God.
Yeah, yeah.
See, and that's a way, at the beginning of this episode when I said I think Alabama gets a bad rap, I rest my case. I'm a native Floridian. I love Florida as much as you do, right? Born in Miami, raised in
Oh yeah.
Orlando, grew up going to the beach, going surfing, going fishing, all that good stuff we do in Florida. So I can make fun of it.
Oh yeah.
And, I don't know. I have yet. You asked me, tell me an Alabama story, and I'm like struggling trying to think of one. But I could tell you a bunch of Florida stories.
Oh yeah, the things to do while you're vacationing in Florida: hunting, fishing, hiking, wildlife, swamp seeing, a skunk ape
Swamp
while you're
scene.
there. No one's judging you. Be
Yeah,
kinky. Stab someone 22 times because you farted and wouldn't say excuse you or at least fan it away. Just things you
I've
do.
done a deep dive on. I've done a deep dive on hashtag Florida man stories. There was
Oh yeah.
one of my favorites actually took place in your neck of the woods in Jacksonville, um,
Oh god.
or St. Johns County, I think it was, which is
Yeah, that's
probably the
Jacksonville.
same. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, he was this. All right. This guy was stopped, right, for speeding or something, or no, it was a tail light. He had a tail light out. Cop pulls him over, and then all of a sudden cop gets out of the car. All of a sudden he takes off, does a donut around the cop, and then it turns into a big high speed pursuit. Well, apparently this guy was a really good driver because
Apparently.
apparently. And next thing you know, he calls 911. The guy that's being chased by cops calls
Oh god.
911 to brag. He
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
I think the dialogue, I read what was said in let me see if I can remember. It's been a couple years since I read it. It's an old story. I think it
Yeah.
happened in like 2012 or something. But
Oh
yeah,
my
he
god.
calls 911 and talks to the dispatcher and says, like, what are we paying you guys for? You guys can't even catch me. What the heck? Just kind of bragging. So
Yeah,
they ended up catching him, obviously.
obviously.
I forget what exactly it was or what exactly happened to him, but yeah, it
Or
was reading that story was so hysterical.
I mean, we had another one in St. Johns County. It was actually not even St. Johns County. It was Duval County, which is actual legit Jacksonville. It was actually
Right.
in a small park called Orange Park. Dudes rolled up to a Wendy's and he ordered like 40 count nuggets or whatever and told them, make sure you give me the barbecue sauce or I'm going to be upset. I'm like, okay, whatever. Dude speeds off, never got his barbecue sauce. He comes back, waits through the line, orders again, and then gets to the counter, but instead of handing her the lady his card, he reaches in the bed of his truck and throws a live alligator through the window.
I think I read about that one. Yeah, that one's
It
crazy too.
it was a
There's a bunch of crazy stuff that happens in Florida, I'm telling
it
you.
was a 6-foot alligator. 6 foot. Do you know how heavy that is?
That's pretty damn.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy. And then there was another one. What was it? There was a guy who the article read, "Man enraged, Florida man enraged at cousin over blanket." I'm like, what is this crap? So I'm scrolling through the article, and I remember the shock factor on my face. It scared my brother. That's how bad it was. So this article says, homeboy walks in on his cousin and his girlfriend having sex on his Dragon Ball Z blanket. Doesn't get mad that him and his cousin and his girl are doing the deed. No, he's mad that it's on top of his Dragon Ball Z blanket. So he runs over there and bites his cousin's pecker off and runs away with it in his mouth. Runs away
Wow.
with his cousin's pecker hanging out of his mouth after he just bit it off. Blanket wrapped around his neck like a superhero cape, and running down the street, leading the police on a chase.
That's crazy.
Like, that is the most Florida thing ever. I don't care who you are. That's as Florida as it gets.
Wow.
I mean, I could hear the banjos just retelling that article.
All right.
But
Well, on that
let's
note,
get into the honorary mention real quick though, because I didn't do that one yet.
all right, do the honorary mention.
Yeah. This one is actually an honorary mention for Alabama, because technically the phenomenon does happen in Alabama. Very rarely, but it has happened. But it's actually more of a Louisiana story. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to do an Alabama encounter with this, and I'll get into it in my Louisiana thing in the next
Okay.
episode. So, excuse me. So, this guy and this kid and four of his friends are like 13, 14, 15 at this point. They're walking through the swampland of Alabama, somewhere on the border there of Louisiana, that kind of thing. And they're walking through the bayous and the old switchbacks and stuff. And he said that he got to a point where he took a step and he couldn't hear anything anymore. Like nothing at all, other than the sound of low, raspy breathing. He's like, he turned around to his friend thinking, somebody's in his ear messing with him or whatever. And he's like, guys, knock it off. He can't hear them talk. He can see them physically talking, but he can't hear them. So he's getting freaked out. So
I was going to say creepy.
yeah, that's creepy. He's freaked out, but he hears the low, raspy breathing, and he just feels this urge of compulsion to follow it. So he starts walking down this old trail. You could tell somebody had been there earlier in the day or quite recently, because there's footprints in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So he's following these footprints. As he's following them, the sound's getting louder of just raspy breathing. And he said that he gets down in there, and he about 100, 150, 250 yards away from his friends, mind you. They stop dead in their tracks. They're trying to figure out what's going on with this dude. And he sees an old man sitting on a log, just out in the middle of a dry spot in the bayou, just sitting there. He's got a little campfire, and he's got a cup of coffee in his hand. And he said that this low, raspy breathing was emanating from this man. And he said he got a couple steps. He got maybe like 10, 15 feet, I think it was, from the guy. And the man turned around with the cup of coffee in his hand. He only turned his head slowly, and his head was, he said it looked like a mummified corpse. But this man was moving and living. He could see his chest moving as he breathed, and that low, raspy. He said that he reached the cup of coffee out to hand it to him as if he's offering it to him. He said, I just, out of instinct, I snapped, freaked out, slapped the cup of coffee away. As I turned around and started running away, I stopped when I realized about 150 yards from this person, this man, this old man, I could hear everything
Mhm.
again, and his friends are like screaming and hollering for him. And he turns around, and the old man is standing in front of the log, standing there, looking at him, pointing at him with a crooked, broken finger, just pointing at him. And he could hear that low, raspy breathing. He said, "No, no, no. Me and my friends, I told them everything on the way as we were running 100 miles an hour home." He said that I got back to our street that we all lived on, and as I described it to the guys in detail, the other guys in detail again, he said one of the my friends, he's my best friend's little cousin or whatever, tough, close groups. He looked and he said, "My, you know, my dad's a shaman. Come see my dad." He goes over there, comes sees his dad. His dad tells him, "Oh, no, 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 no. That's bad mojo. No, 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 no. Go talk to my dad." So he's talking to his best friend's cousin's whatever, or it wasn't his best friend because it was a friend or whatever. His friend's grandfather, and he tells him, "Ah, you can sleep easy at night now. The bio man will never only tries to get you once, and if he can't get you, you're safe for the rest of your time." Like, how
Wow.
ominous and freaky is that?
Pretty damn.
Yeah,
That
that's
is crazy.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that that is freaky.
I think that's an understatement. I really do. I think we use terms like freaky and crazy and stuff like that, but I don't know. Do you ever think that sometimes those types of terms like loses its meaning with as much as we use it?
Yeah, some of that's a little wild.
Yeah.
I
Well, that was a good honorable mention.
I hope so. I hoped it was because that is like freaky. And the sad thing is, I can't find a single article about it other than that one encounter.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I'll have to reach out to a couple
So do you think it
friends and
was
see if
made
they
up
know.
or do you think
I I don't know.
hmm,
I don't know.
interesting. Well, let me
'Cause
do
it's
some digging. Maybe I can
yeah, maybe you can
maybe I
find
can
something.
do some investigation, figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to find a couple different things. I know I found a creepy pasta that was spurred by this,
Mhm.
but it's like it wasn't really a full creepy pasta. It was this guy's encounter that he posted to a creepy pasta forum
Oh,
because
I gotcha.
everywhere else on Reddit he was like getting blocked or banned or whatever.
Huh. What was he getting blocked or banned for? Do you know, or does it just is it like a misinformation type thing?
I have no idea. I could never find anything.
Mm. Well, I have to get out of here so I can get to bed because I gotta dawn comes early in the
Indeed.
workforce. Happens every morning, just about sun up.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good podcast. I had fun tonight.
I hope so.
So next
I
week
hope
is
you
Louisiana.
next week I think is going to be Louisiana.
You think? I thought we already
Yeah.
decided.
A little bit of both.
All right. Well, do you want me to sign us out, or would you like to do that?
No, I think I'll do it. That intro was enough damage.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
I
It
think
wasn't that bad.
I think I only caught like the first half of the intro greeting, so it's like I don't know.
It's just basically saying, we're both high school graduates. We like talking about weird stuff, and
Oh no, I know I caught that, but I think I only caught you when you say the burning veil. So it's
oh,
like maybe not. I don't know. If not, it's whatever.
well,
Um,
I can work on it. No
yeah.
bigs.
But this has been another episode of the Burning Veil podcast. I'm your host Gideon,
And
and
I'm Chris.
this is my co-host Chris. So
Thank you for listening.
arrivederci. Arrivederci. Thank you for listening.